Good morning and welcome to this morning's reflection. You may be surprised to learn, as I was, that the command to love your neighbor appears only once in the Old Testament. But the command to love the stranger appears in 36 places. It can be tough to love the stranger, those who are not like us. And where we are strangers, we know how much we desire for people to offer us a hand of friendship, a hand of care, for people to love us, the stranger. I know we find it hard to see God in those who are not part of our particular culture or our faith group. And where a particular group threatens our beliefs or our values, we find it even harder to love them. They make us afraid. And out of our fear, we may demonize those who oppose us. And when we do this, we legitimize any negative attitudes that we may have towards them. So we have to be very careful about that. When we demonize others, we are filled with fear, and we run into our man-made fortresses, then adopt a profoundly adversarial attitude toward others. And this stops us from listening to them. It stops us from befriending them. It stops us from loving them. It stops us from letting them see the grace of God. It stops us from providing them with a way to healing. A radical southern preacher, Will Campbell, learned of a church that was suing a nearby topless bar. And he said, imagine suing them. Shouldn't we want to be close to sinners? Shouldn't we want to befriend them and convert them and not sue them? Love has the power to win over the stranger. Love has the power to transform the world. And I truly believe that. When you think about your enemies, who do you think of? What would it look like if you made a point, actively and intentionally, to love your enemies? To love those who have hurt you, to love those who have let you down, to love those who are willingly and intentionally seeking to harm you. Jesus commands us to love our enemies. And the Christian faith is the only religion in the world that carries that command. Martin Luther King said the following, and this just highlights what an attitude of love can do. He said, to our most bitter opponents we say, do to us what you will, and we shall continue to love you. We cannot, in all good conscience, obey your unjust laws, because non-cooperation with evil is as much a moral obligation as is cooperation with good. Throw us in jail, and we shall still love you. Bomb our homes and threaten our children, and we shall still love you. Send your hooded perpetrators of violence into our communities at the midnight hour, and beat us and leave us half dead, and we shall still love you. But be ye assured that we will wear you down by our capacity to suffer. One day we shall win freedom, but not only for ourselves. We shall appeal to your heart and your conscience, that we shall win you in this process, and therefore our victory will be a double victory. As Christians, we don't have all the answers. We stumble along believing that an invisible God really exists, and that there's much more to life than sound and fury, and that despite all appearances, the universe is a product of personal love. We are a long way from being a model on ethical issues. We miss the priorities of God's kingdom. We have little reason to be proud. It makes all the difference in the world whether I view my neighbor as a potential convert or someone who God already loves. And so our challenge is to truly love others, because love does transform the world. We know that. Let us set aside our culture that calls us to adversarial relationships, and let's instead listen to the call of God that says we should love our enemies. Let us start there. Amen.